Okay, so I've made a fair amount of progress. Let's see, where to start? Let's start with the windshield wipers. So remember I rebuilt or I freed up the windshield wiper assembly. Got that in there. What's interesting is they were 16 inches apart, but I only had about 15.5 inches. For whatever reason, this assembly from a 65, it didn't quite work. So I used the Dremel. I got new, these guys I got new, and I went ahead and Dremeled them out to the side a little bit, and I assembled them just like about a 1/3 of an inch wider. Then it did hit my light switch, which I put on this one, so I have to see if that still hits now. But I wanted to show this because I was testing this with my 12-volt battery, and if I look here, let's look. So I have working windshield wipers. That is awesome. So it looks like the driver's side one is going a little bit too low, but the way they sit right there is good. So, you know, I'll see. So that's windshield wipers. That's great. Let's see. The next thing that I've done, so I really have been working on my electrical wiring, and I moved my voltage regulator inside here like this, and now you can see all these wires. So there's 5 wires. There's the green one here is DF. This red one here, which is a 12 gauge wire, goes to D+. This blue one here goes to the, I believe that's going to the dashboard's, the dummy light for the generator. And then I've got these two here. One of them goes straight to the starter terminal, and the other one, let's see, the other one goes to the main wiring harness, which then comes all the way back around. The way that I did that, you can see these zip tied, and they go in through the same grommet here as the battery. Now when I push the big fat 10 gauge, so these two are 10 gauge wires, they're really thick. When I pushed those through this grommet on the other side, they didn't go through the little nipple area of the grommet. They kind of broke it broke its own new hole. But I looked at it and I'm fine with it. It seems like it's not going to be leaking water. So the next thing, I've got the motor in, and I reassembled this spring. The spring barely touches the top here, and I've just decided I don't care. We're gonna leave it like that. I suppose you could move this to the back thing here, and I'm not sure if that would improve it. Maybe if somebody knows, they can tell me if just moving this back. I think it would improve it to move it back some. I don't know, you know, there's only one other hole here, so maybe if I move it back, it wouldn't hit the top of the fan shroud. But yeah, there are a couple of things that people don't tell you. Number one, in order to get the motor in, I had to remove the dual carbs. So I did that, and then when I did that, I also had to remove these fresh air hoses in order to get the motor in. So then what I did is, when I reassembled the dual carbs, I almost couldn't reach the back bolts. So, you know, I used smaller 12, I used flanged nuts, that is, for the front of the intake manifold, and then I have to use a non-flanged 12 nut for the back side, and I had to cut, well, it wasn't this one, but I have a mini 12 that I had to cut and shave off the side just to get it in there and tighten down the carb. So that was a huge pain in the ass. And then what was really annoying is then I brought my fuel line around here and that's a AN line here that hooks into the back, and you can't get the wrench to it in order to tighten it. So I had to take off this top plate of the carb once it was in order to tighten down my fuel. So then I reassembled that, which is, you know, a pain to get to some of these nuts here, but it does work. And then I reassembled my linkage. I got the gas pedal hooked up to the dual carb linkage, and I got my springs here. I put in a little thread lock because these things would jiggle out, and the springs hold it up. So now my gas pedal works, and so that is the progress on the motor. I also flapped down the rubber seal for the most part around the entire thing, so that it has the, you know, the flap with the two sides. One's on the top, one's on the bottom. So that's good. And I hooked up all the wiring here, so you can see. Here's my wiring to the wiring harness, coming to the coil, coming here to the dummy switch for this. I have my extra 6 wires here, one of which I connected to the temperature, oil temperature, but I don't have the gauge in there yet. But then I have 5 more. So one of them is going to go to my oil pressure gauge, which I have here. One of them is going to go to the tachometer, which goes up here. So there's a couple more wires that have to go through. So, but for the most part, I'm set to be able to start the engine, which is my goal for today, is to actually start this motor. There's a couple things standing in my way. One is my full flow oil system. You can see down here, my full flow oil system, these 8AN wires were not long enough to reach. You know, I was trying to mount this, so I finally found a good spot to mount this oil filter, and I pointed those 8AN lines down. Now, you know, if you hit rocks, it is possible that a rock might hit this, but there's not really a good spot for it. It's right above the bumper bracket, kind of going down with those fittings pointing down. But if you look at these lines are not long enough to reach from there to there. So I have line here. I don't have any extra fittings. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take this old 8AN and I'm going to disconnect this. This has oil all in it, so I mean the motor does, so it would just probably drip out. So I'm going to take off those lines. I'm going to run this one in and out of itself like this so that I don't leak anything. And then I'm going to take off these colorful fittings that I have, and I'm going to measure and create 2 new lines so they'll come up to here. And then I had some little brackets that would keep them in place and have them together coming right under this, keep about an inch or just a little under an inch of separation to the exhaust, and then run it up to there. So that's my goal for today, is to get the lines, the oil lines, and I believe that's my last step, and then I can connect the battery and start the motor. But what I really have to do is make sure that there's no electrical that is, hanging wires. I have to reconnect this one. So let's see, I have the wire here for my deck lid, which comes in here, comes up here like this. I had to take this off because I had to take the deck lid off in order to install this motor. So now, let's see if I can catch this on camera. Come on, little guy. Well, it doesn't seem to want to go up there. But yeah, so I'm going to connect this one up here, reconnect that to there. Oh, another great thing that I did. I installed the turn signal switch and just made sure that the return takes it back. So if I turn left and then I turn it back to the right, it goes off. If I turn right and then I'm turning back to the left, turns off. So then I put on my horn, and I had to take this off in order to install this. This comes through here with the little grommet, so that looks good. And then the turn signal. So I don't know if this is the appropriate turn signal for this year, but here's the whole turn signal wiring coming in. So I assume the ones that split, I have a brown that splits, and I have a red-black that splits, and I assume that these have to go to the front and back lights, and then I have yellow, red, and red, white, and I just have to figure out what the heck they go to. So a yellow, red, a red, and a white, and then I have the two that split, which I believe they're going to go to the left front and back lights. So I got to figure all that out. I believe these are going to the back ones. So in other words, before I can start the car, I've got to kind of wire up the electrical so that when I connect the battery, I don't have stuff shorting out all over the place. So yeah, that's my turn signal. And then the other thing that I did is I got a new horn and I tested it out, and I mounted it right under here. So that's my horn, and I wired it up to the horn wire. So it sounds great, a little meep meep, and it points down rather than kind of up through this little grill. But you know, I put those are bumper bolts, which I have a bunch of extra, and they come through right here, but they have the lock nut, so that's good and shouldn't leak any. So that's the horn. Now the one thing I'm waiting for is my blinker relay, my flasher relay, and you know, I guess that'll maybe go in the little bracket under here. This is about the same size. So this is a relay that I don't need. That would be used on a later model, I think. But I only need the flasher relay for this, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I have a 3-pin relay coming, hopefully today. I'll probably just affix that here with the posts sticking out so that they're all reachable. And then that'll connect to my turn signal and everything. So, as I said, my current task is to make the AN lines, the 8 AN lines for my oil, because that's the most critical path to starting the motor. Then after that, I've just got to clean up my electrical so that I can connect the battery. So, okay, let me think if I forgot anything. I was testing the circuit with my meter of what it means to have the ignition switch on and off and what it connects, because I need to find switched 12 volt power. It's ignition switch 12 volt power to go to these two wires here, because these go to my solenoid, which allows fuel to pass, and my fuel pump. So I'm gonna have to split. I'm gonna have to locate 12 volt switched power in my fuse box, and I'm gonna have to split that out to these two here as well. But overall, you know, when I look at this now, and with my windshield wipers, and you know, looks like my rubber. I don't have the wiring done on the lights yet, so the wire just pokes through there. But I do have. I ordered some more of these, which are just conduit, so that I can actually get my my lights. You know, you can't put on the end little bracket until you feed the wires through the conduit, because you have to put on like a big bulky end fitting for the wires. So you need to feed it through the conduit first. The conduit going here for these wires. Between here and the little hole for here, there's a piece of conduit that goes. So, but, you know, overall, that's what I got going. It's looking pretty good.